The Pueblo Star Journal presents Bree on a Budget. Bree on a Budget is a production of the Voices of Pueblo podcast. This episode, United Way Aspen Acres Fire Recovery, features the United Way with guest Chris Segura. The episode is produced and narrated by Bree Pappan.
Good morning, Pueblo. It is Friday, July 10th, here at the Pueblo Star Journal offices, and this is Bree on a Budget. I'm Bree Pappan, and I am bringing you a special program today focusing on the relief for the Aspen Acres wildfire. I am really pleased to be joined by one of our recurring community partners here in Pueblo, Colorado, United Way of Southern Colorado's Director of Communications and Engagement, Christopher Segura. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Bree. It's always a pleasure to be here. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Christopher, I just wanted to start off by putting out the latest statistics as of this morning in regards to the Aspen Acres wildfire. At this point, it is over 97,000 acres have been burned. And to put that in perspective, that is about the size of the city of Philadelphia. If any of you know about the city of Philadelphia and you know how expansive that is, it's hard when you're looking at a map with the redlined area to try to visualize how large that is. So I heard that this morning, and that is a really excellent way to be able to visualize how big this actually is. Also, on the positive side, they have stated that they have contained just under 30% of the fire, about 28%. So that is, I think, an incredible improvement from Tuesday's number, which was about 14. I know that the recent downpour rains that we've had, I think at our house, they've been monsoon relevant. So very, very nice, good, powerful rains that we've had. Even though they've been for short periods, they have helped from what they've said. 780 structures have been destroyed. 275 of those are homes, and 192 of those are in Pueblo County. So I thought it was really important to have today's show focused on the types of relief, the types of things, resources that are there for the evacuees, for the people that are on standby, for the people that have already left their homes, have already been forced to leave their homes. So I wanted to really first read an important press release that United Way of Southern Colorado released on July 1st. The United Way of Southern Colorado launched a Southern Colorado Fire Relief Fund. In response to the growing threat and impact of wildfires across southern Colorado, United Way of Southern Colorado has established the Southern Colorado Wildfire Relief Fund to provide support for individuals, families, and communities affected by wildfires throughout the region. That is an incredible immediate response to this disaster, now the seventh largest in Colorado's history, the wildfires. Christopher, I first want to talk about, just really quick, the transition that you've recently made, I believe in June, from United Way of Pueblo to United Way of Southern Colorado. Congratulations on that, by the way.
Thank you.
I think that's an enormous uptick in terms of the expansion. And what does that mean for your ability to activate resources, to activate all things in terms of growth for your organization?
Yeah, it's a great question. And the best word I think I can use is opportunity, because now our growth is pretty much doubled. We went from 15 counties to 31 altogether. So county-wise, we're the largest in the state, the largest United Way in the state of Colorado.
Wow. So it's really about your service area in terms of servicing more people.
Right. In terms of like overall area, yes, not necessarily people per capita, because some of those areas are lower populated. However, resources are different, right? So when I say opportunity, then our plan was to begin a listening tour in these other communities and to just really get into the grassroots of what's needed in each of those, because when we're talking from border to border, different terrain, different types of economy, different population levels, different needs in each of those communities, it's really important for us to figure out what programs are established in those communities, what assistance is available, what connections and collaboration exist there, and then just stimulate all of that the best way that we possibly can per community. And so that was the plan before all this came about. And so there's a huge opportunity for us to partner with each of those communities and really kind of build on what they've already established in those areas.
Okay. Now, I know that several of your staff, for example, the person that is oversees the community hub, they are immediately responding to the disaster relief and going to those areas. Tell me about what types of things through your relief fund, what types of things are you able to offer to, is it just people that, so it's evacuees, people that are been displaced, people that are maybe on deck of being evacuated?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about the types of things that you're able to offer to those people.
So right now the focus for the fund has been, and we've talked about this as if it's been happening for quite some time, because it feels like that for so many of us.
It does feel, yeah. It
you
does
talk
feel.
about the press release being going out on July 1st. We're at what, I don't even know what day
we're
it is.
We're in the second week.
Yeah, the second week, and so it feels like we've been at this for 6 months, and I can't even imagine for those that are in it, that have been evacuated and are living minute by minute, hour by hour at this point, and really elevated anxiety and fear and all of those things that come with it. And we pray for them every single day. But as far as the fund, so that's what we've been focusing on, is immediate and urgent needs for that particular community, for those that have been impacted and still being evacuated, and figuring out what resources they need, which is the establishment of the DAC and getting all the other community organizations established. And so it's really been focused on those kinds of things. Now that things are opening up, there's progression on the control of the fire, and people are getting their cards to go back into their properties, assess damage. Those needs now are just barely starting to scratch the surface of what
I understand that they are
needing.
allowing some people maybe in Colorado City to return as well. Now, I think it's when you hear these things on the radio in terms of the distribution of the color coded cards, in terms for people to, what is that process? Are you able to share a little bit about what is that process exactly?
I can tell you, because I have not been through, and I spent several hours at the DAC, but not in that line. I can tell you from day one, when the DAC was established, to now, that process has been strongly streamlined. And so from being only able to issue, I think in the first couple of days, a couple hundred cards, they went to, several hundred within the next couple of days after listening to responses. And they brought extra equipment out, extra staff, extra resources, so that some in the first couple of days people were standing in line for hours, and now it's maybe only a few minutes or a couple hours. And so
I've been reading that people are saying it's like max 15 minutes. in terms of the process. You can also do it online.
Right. Yeah. So just really listening to the community and helping to streamline that process is really taking some of that off of that particular community. So.
Okay. And you're referring to the DAC with Disaster Area Center?
The Disaster Assistance Center.
Disaster Assistance
Yes.
Center. And where is that located?
It is currently located at 29 Lehigh Avenue, which is the old Pitts Middle School for my generation, PAA Middle School. Yeah.
So people can, are people able to stay there?
It's not a shelter.
Okay, it's
no.
not a shelter.
As long as and transportation is offered for those that don't have transportation right now or unable to go. They can make a phone call to SCRDA. I believe is offering free transportation at this point, shuttle service. But that is a hub for all kinds of resources, not supply donation type of resources, although Care and Share has been there handing out food and allowing people to kind of shop there for. They need to sort of set up a food bank there as well. You have other organizations that are making meals there for people that have been waiting in line and feeding, making sure people are fed there that day. But that is where DHS has been, United Way has been,
Perfect.
The city, the county. There are multiple financial institutions there offering assistance to their members, to their clientele, to the community themselves, emergency loans and things like that.
Sure.
Other organizations are trying to help with financial systems where they can. That's where people were getting linked up to the Airbnb list to get temporary housing, and there's other organizations that are offering temporary housing there. So that is where all of those resources can be found. We strongly encourage folks to visit that facility and talk to every single, even if you don't think that you need it, talk to those, because there are resources out there for that community at this point.
That is the most incredible. If you just think about the timeline, when you were just explaining it to me, I'm thinking in just 2 weeks, in less than 2 weeks, community has come together and rallied together and created this incredible support system for the people that have been displaced by this wildfire and have been forced to leave their home, whether it's an individual, a couple, a family, an elderly person, and that is the hardest thing in the world, is to leave your place of safety, your home. I know of other people that are hunkering down and staying in their home, want to stay in their community, because they're afraid that if they leave, they won't be, if they haven't been, properly evacuated or put on a list of evacuation, if they choose to leave, to kind of hunker down and leave, they will not be able to return. Is that, are you finding, in terms of your communication with people that you've spoken with that are victims of this wildfire, is that a shared opinion?
I would say everything that you said is very, very real to so many people right now. I mean, fears from that you explained to fear of just losing absolutely everything that hasn't, so, and everything in between that, because within this community of folks that have been directly impacted, those losses vary. And so you're hearing stories that have complete loss in the same neighborhood of folks that have just been evacuated,
right,
and fear that loss and what that can look like. And they've been able to talk to these folks directly as we are, offering resources on the daily and hearing these stories. And so imagine all of that happening in our community. And you touched on this, and there's people outside of Pueblo that are naysayers about our community. But when things like this happen, our community comes together every
Absolutely.
single time and shows up, and from an organization that's taking donations to distribute those back. There are people that are giving that probably don't have the means to really give, and they're just giving out of the kindness of their heart and making individual sacrifices of themselves to give to others. And that's what our community is really about. And
I've even heard in direct reflection to the Airbnb, I've heard of people that have rental properties that they just have rental properties. It's not necessarily an Airbnb that they are offering if they're in the vicinity of any of these areas, and they're like, you can stay there for as long as you're able to stay there. I mean, because maybe that particular property would be deemed like this is an evacuation area. So, and that shows how unpredictable the wildfire can be in terms of the way it spreads, the way the wind affects it, the way the intermittent rains affect it, the way in which all of these amazing men and women that have come to voluntarily help fight the wildfire. Some are experiencing exhaustion and smoke inhalation and have been injured. But I mean, I've heard stories of volunteer firefighters driving 14 hours in their car to come help and fight these fires. And again, in just this short 2-week period of how the community comes together, what are the things that you found are most needed by these individuals? Aside from like food and water, what are some other things that we may not think of that are really essential?
We've learned a lot about the essential needs in especially establishing that donation and distribution center, because initially that's our first thought is food and water, right? And the community jumped on that, and there was an overwhelming abundance. We went from like 4 pallets of water to 10 to 60 to over 100 in like a 10 to 12 hour span.
Are you getting assistance from retail
we are
places?
Yes,
like, let's say Walmart,
Target
or
has
the supermarkets
brought a truck. Walmart has brought a truck. Safeway has been involved. So yes, like retail has stepped up, shown up, not just brought deliveries, but offered armies of volunteers as well. So to answer your question about needs, they've evolved so much and changed things from like things for infants and babies and those kinds of diapers, supplies, bottles, cups, formula, those kinds of things, all the way to things that retirees might need as well, and everything in between, electronics, chargers for phones, some of those kinds of things. And so the amazing thing, just again, on the response of the community, we've got a post on our Facebook page that we update as frequently as we can when those needs change. When those needs change, people are on it, which is why they change so much. And so we're able to focus on very niche things. Of clothing was a big deal, and abundance of clothing. So we said no more clothing. Let's focus on these kinds of things, and that's something that's continuously changing and being updated almost on the daily basis. So I encourage you to look at our Facebook page every day. It's there's a post on there that's being updated sometimes by the hour, just to just to keep people informed, and because people are stepping up when there's an ask. And so what's on that list right now are things like trash bags, see very specific things like Alka-Seltzer, rubbing alcohol, non-perishable foods for diabetics and gluten-free. So how specific we've gotten. So these are things that we don't think of. Hand tools, screwdrivers, Allen wrenches, adjustable wrenches, hampers, mallets, Band-Aids, coffee and tea, still baby diapers for feminine hygiene products, dog food, dog supplies, dog eye drops for the smoke. We forget how this is, affecting our animals. And so Kleenex, dish soap, nail files. And see, we're able to be this specific: lotion, shampoo, conditioner, because the community stepped up for like the overall fundamental needs, and we can focus on those kinds of things.
So I'm I'm guessing this might be an obvious thing, that the governor has declared a state of emergency. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
For this wildfire. I feel like you say like this has been, feel like it's been going on 6 months, but we have had a situation in the last 6 months. So if you think about it, this is July. It's the 7th month of the year. Just in October of last year, everybody lost their food assistance.
Yeah, SNAP.
And then so it is almost inside that window in terms of resilience measuring factors of a community. So when, all of these things are constantly being tested against Pueblo County, this community, and Fremont County, neighboring counties. And you've really stated about how the community has answered that call in terms of coming to the aid of their residents. What do you think? What has been some of the? Have you talked in terms to some of these victims? Not necessarily about the things that the material things, about what this means to them in terms of their state of thought right now, in terms of what their hopes are. Of course, their hopes are that they can return to their home sooner than later, but when they get that call that they are on the evacuation list, there's like a 24-hour thing that they have to respond to. Like, we have to get things together. We have to take everything that means something to us in the next 24 hours. Have you had any interface with people that you've talked with in terms of what their mental preparation was for something like that?
Yeah, and several say there isn't really one. It's difficult even when you're prepared. I think the general impression is like, we're going to be prepared, but that'll probably never happen here. It'll probably happen somewhere else, but not here. And so I've had a few people tell me, although we were somewhat prepared for an emergency, not necessarily a fire like this or to evacuate, but emergency prepared. Nothing like this. Right. And we weren't prepared to lose everything. And we were prepared to lose everything this quickly. And so to hear that, it's almost like you can think, yes, we're going to prepare. We'll have a to-go bag and all these different things. But deep down inside, you're like, well, my family will be ready, so we don't really have to worry about it. And then when it happens,
it's one of those you don't know until it actually happens types of situations. But you think about and exactly what you're saying in terms of you're thinking on a much larger scale, not a local scale. A national scale, or maybe in a statewide scale, that maybe because there's so many things that talk about in terms of, maybe there's maybe the government turmoil, or maybe the main grid will go down and everybody loses technology. And, we've all seen the fictional, movies or series about things that happen, in terms of a national disaster and the aftermath of that, and how people deal with that. But and that kind of, I think, weighs on people's mind of like, am I prepared for something like that?
Well, and that's the thing is there's no to-go bag for your feelings and emotions.
That is perfectly said.
And so you don't know what you're going to feel when this happens. You look around your house while you're preparing, feeling secure, right? All of your things are here and your belongings are here. You're surrounded by all that you love and all that you built around you in your home, and you're planning a to-go bag for an emergency leave. You can't pack your feelings feelings away and say, well, I'm going to prepare to just lose all of my things, all of my antiques, my photos, my memories. How do you prepare an emotional bag for that? You just can't. So most of what's happening right now in this, what feels like 6 months in this, few days time, is people are circulating through that. Am I going to lose everything? Right. I've just lost everything.
Right.
Sort of thing.
So that brings me to another question. So as you talk about all of the community resources that are at the DAC, from DHS to banking facilities to all kinds of things. Are there also mental health professionals available to speak to individuals that may need those services?
Yes, there are. And we've actually had even an outreach from outside of the community, from therapy groups and offices offering those services as well from outside. And so if there's a need, they're willing to come in. They're also offering those things mobily too, if they want to do a phone session and things like that. And then there are organizations that are looking at grants for extended services for mental health and those kinds of things. So those are on the forefront as well.
Wonderful, because those two things go hand in hand, and people, they just kind of, when you're in the face of a disaster situation or a life-altering situation, you kind of put all of that aside, because especially if you're taking care of a child, you are like, all right, my needs are no longer important. I have to take care of this child, my child. I have to make sure they're safe. It's
trauma.
It's enough doing that inside your home. If you're doing that when you don't have a home,
right?
It's like, how can you possibly manage something like that when you don't have all of your resources in your toolbox, as I say. So that is a really reassuring thing to know, that those services are available, as well as material fulfilling services and food and shelter, food and water and stuff like that. So let's fast forward to, let's say, this time next week. Optimistically, let's say they double their containment. So that would be about 60% containment. And it would probably be safe to say that that over 50% of people would be able to return to their homes. What would be the status of the DAC in times that, when a disaster is mitigated? And is it something that will be like kind of on the threshold, or always kind of ready to go at a moment's notice in terms of its role in the community from this going forward?
I would hope, from somebody that's been a part of organization, of those. I mean, we saw that response from organizations for SNAP. We facilitated weekly meetings with those that wanted to be involved in offering resources for those members. This is no different. Every crisis is different, so every DAC, every committee is going to look a little bit different. So I would say yes, as things progress, and again, being so engulfed in all of this, as things have changed, everything else has evolved with it, from the processes, from getting your tags to what resources actually show up to the DAC, to what resources are being donated to the folks' immediate needs to. There's a lot of questions about what now with the fund growing, the Relief and Recovery Fund growing, where's that money going to go? Into our conversations from focusing on immediate needs and what that looks like for purchasing goods and those kinds of things for that community, to now how do we focus on recovery, and how do we establish and work towards recovery for those folks? And to your point, the wildfires being, hopefully it's more contained. We're talking 30% contained. Hopefully it's at a 60, but as that slow progression happens, also that slew of information comes in just as slowly, if not slower, in establishing what do people actually need for recovery.
Right.
You have everything from total loss to just smoke damage. I shouldn't say just, but like, smoke damage
there's a range of loss.
Huge range of loss, and
Yeah.
what those needs are, and how do we assess those needs from what if insurance and other funding in that pool look like for those folks. And that ranges from insured, fully insured, to under or no insured.
Right.
And so how do we assess all that and have an efficient, equal, fair system and distribution of this fund and serve as many people as we possibly can in recovery. So that's what the discussion is now in preparation for that. So I'm optimistic. I know there's
preparedness for your organization in terms of, because, and I was just thinking about this when you were talking, is that wildfires are a seasonal thing. Mm-hmm. They happen every year. The location of them varies. It's not always this area or always all the time. But do the people that have been evacuated this time, do they and let's say their homeowners insurance, do you think they may face? I mean, I see some parallels between the California wildfire victims and, which is gigantic scale, to a smaller scale, the individuals right now, the Aspen Acres wildfire victims, in terms of, will they be able to be insurable, in the future? Will insurance companies say, well, you're in a wildfire zone, so, it's just, once you've experienced this, it's like, are you prone to have experienced it again? That's that is something
there's
so much
I pray about, right? And I'm not an insurance agent, a property casualty insurance agent, but in listening to people's stories, and again, these are stories that I'm told, so I'm not investigating information. I don't know what's fact out there, but some people's
these are first-hand accounts that you've
some people's insurance companies have recently dropped them because of risk. There's no mention of what those insurance, but these are factors and variables that others haven't thought of, and right before this has happened, right? And so you may have felt prepared, and then this happens. Some of them are finding that out now when they thought they were insured, and what level of insurance they have. And so again, the optimistic thing, right? And, we've talked about, the response and things thus far, but as somebody, again, that's in it and in it for it, again, what feels like 6 months, but only a couple of weeks, the optimistic thing is that there's foresight happening, that most of these agencies, if not all, have reacted and answered the call, but now thinking proactively this quickly. And when you're in it, like as a victim and somebody that's been impacted, I can feel that it's never going to be fast enough, right?
Absolutely.
Like people are running out of money.
I needed it yesterday.
They're running out of money. They're living with almost nothing. That fear and anxiety is very real. Our staff, and I think everybody's staff, is being very gracious and recognizing those feelings of anxiety, and like, well, there's a fund here. Why can't I just pull money out of the fund, right? We can't just operate as an ATM and without assessing like what everybody's needs are and facilitating
like, can
that.
I put some person in an apartment for a month?
Yeah,
or
so to hear somebody say like, you have a fund, why can't we just, like, I need money now, and it's a very real, and I can't imagine. Again, I pray for those folks. But the optimistic thing is that so early in all of this, we're thinking ahead, so that when things open up and those things are assessed, we will have a system for that recovery, that recovery plan per se.
So there are also wildfires happening in northern New Mexico and in Arizona.
Yeah.
And those are also recurrent seasonal areas of the United States that see wildfires oftentimes, many times a year, especially Arizona because of how dry it is there. And the monsoon season can't come soon enough. But have you have you had communication with United Ways from other organizations that are experiencing the same types of things that United Way of Southern Colorado is?
Not currently, and I think that's specific because when you're in it,
you're hyper focused.
Yeah, I got to serve my community, and so and our CEO and our vice president have had outreach conversations with other CEOs that have been through disaster relief before.
To learn from that experience.
Absolutely.
Right.
So we have used our network specifically. I haven't had those conversations either, but in talking about those other fires in other states, we have 2 others in our Southern Colorado area too that are happening. And so we talk a lot about the Aspen Acres a fire in Custer and Pueblo counties that's super close to home. But as an organization, like, we have 2 other, areas of our territory that we're also helping to assist as well.
Yeah. That's I just wondered about that because of how, just it's all happening at the same time. And so I want to, as we close out, I want to just have you give a shout out again so you can receive donations at the United Way of Southern Colorado offices downtown here in Pueblo. And again, what would be the process if somebody wanted to bring a donation to the offices?
Yeah, it's a great question. We had a telethon just this week that was huge success in partnership with CareDO, and the community showed up. And so the reason I mentioned that is because there's a lot of donors that want to send checks. So you make the check out to United Way of Southern Colorado. You can notate specifically for the fire that it's going to the Southern Colorado Wildfire Relief and Recovery Fund.
Okay.
So that you notate that, and we make sure we designate that to the Wildfire Relief and Recovery Fund itself. You can mail those checks to 510 West 3rd Street, Pueblo, Colorado 81003. So you can mail checks there. Our office hours are from 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. Again, our headquarters address is 510 West 3rd Street. We're in downtown Pueblo.
Okay. And then, so any physical donations, non-monetary, will be distributed at the DAC.
The DAC, the Disaster Assistance Center, does have some resources. We're taking all of the donations that we receive to the Donation and Distribution Center at 1591 Taos Road. It's right down the street from the Cooper Road shelter. Okay. Where they're offering shelter. So the big trucks that Target and Walmart have delivered, we're directing those large donations to 1591 Taos Road. Okay. It's a House Solution.
I'm going to make sure that all of this pertinent information is in the narrative of the podcast, so that when people are listening, they can, of course, have that information.
Perfect.
If they want.
Thank you,
they
Bree.
would like to donate following the podcast. Also, again, could you please tell people the website and phone number?
Yes,
for the offices.
Absolutely. Our main page website is www.unitedwaysoco.org. So unitedwaysoco.org. And our phone number is 719-225-8580.
Okay. Thank you so much. I just really, again, we are hopeful for the mitigation of this wildfire. It is, like I said, it's the 7th largest in the history of Colorado in regards of wildfires. It is a declared state of emergency by Governor Paulus. And it's really reassuring to know that in these situations, how fast the community activates relief or can activate assistance.
Right.
Whether it's through United Way of Southern Colorado, the partnerships that you guys have. I think it's just an amazing testament to, and really resilient antithesis of what people think about what Pueblo actually encompasses and what we're about. And this is an incredible example of how the community comes together. Again, I want to thank my guest today, Christopher Segura, who is the Director of Communications Engagement at United Way of Southern Colorado. And that is www.unitedwayofsoutherncolorado.org.
SoCo.org, yeah.
SoCo.org, thank you. And again, it's like there's no more United Way of Pueblo. It is United Way of Southern Colorado. Rightfully so, and they have expanded their ability to service more of Pueblo County and more of Southern Colorado, which is fantastic. Thank you so much again, Chris. Again, I really appreciate United Way. We enjoyed our partnership with you and continue to enjoy our partnership. Thanks so much again, and thank you all so much for listening. This has been Bree on a Budget. I'm Bree Pappan. Thank you so much, and we'll see you again.
You've been listening to Bree on a Budget, a production of the Voices of Pueblo podcast, presented by the Pueblo Star-Journal. This episode, United Way Aspen Acres Fire Recovery, was produced and narrated by Bree Pappan. The Pueblo Star-Journal thanks Colorado Housing and Finance Authority for their support of this podcast. To learn more and to support nonprofit local news in Pueblo, Colorado, visit pueblostarjournal.org. Thank you for listening.
Homeownership is possible with a trusted partner.
It brings us a lot of joy to be able to say that this house is our own and that we've poured our hearts into making it our own.
Alyssa and Ryan are among the more than 155,000 people Chaffa has helped become homeowners since 1974. It starts with homebuyer education and connecting you with a statewide network of participating lenders. Get started at chfainfo.com/yourhome. Chaffa is an equal housing lender.